Let me talk to you, if I might, today, I hope as a friend, but talk very frankly. You cannot lobby your way out of a paper bag in the House. You cannot lobby your way out of a paper bag in the House.
Sweet dreams are made of this. Who am I to disagree? I travel the world and the seven seas. Everybody's looking for something.
There's an interesting expression about Washington, attributed to former President Harry Truman, and that if you want a friend in Washington, go buy a dog. Eddie Fritz disproves that expression. Eddie Fritz has been in Washington all these many years. He doesn't have an enemy here.
I would put Eddie down as an all-time great. He was fair-minded, effective. When he didn't win an argument, he left the door open so you'd come back.
He brought lobbying out into the public. He made certain everybody knew where they stood. There wasn't any backdoor stuff. Eddie Fritz was right up front, and he was the kind of guy that would come to you and say, you know, Senator, I'm not sure you thought of this right.
When he was asked to serve himself as president of the association, it was a great mark of respect for him then by his colleagues and friends who were broadcasters from throughout the country.
When Eddie was appointed president by the NAB, of the NAB, my comment was, my God, they've appointed a small market guy from Mississippi. What are they thinking of? Well, boy, was I wrong, because Eddie has taken the NAB to the top of the mountain.
That personal touch, that understanding of how you activate grassroots, working with the really big players in broadcasting, but keeping in mind WLOX-TV, Biloxi, Mississippi, and all those radio men and women across America served him very well and served the industry very well.
I'm honored to report that broadcasters in 2001 were responsible for $9.9 billion.
When the criticism was coming hot and heavy, Eddie was able to point out the good things that broadcasters were doing and remind us of the very important public service that broadcasters provide.
Well, the Cable Act was a wonderful fight, and it was a great surprise to the administration, but no surprise to us.
The cable industry sits there as a virtual stranglehold on the entire industry. If they don't like the signal we have on the air, off it goes.
Very seldom do you see veto overrides. Extremely seldom do you see it over a substantially complex policy issue like a telecommunications issue. To win that override in the House and the Senate and to adopt this extraordinary piece of legislation is a great tribute to Eddie Fritz.
His biggest victory during my tenure on the Energy and Commerce Committee was maintaining must-carry, the 92 Cable Act, which I voted against him on that one. But overall, I think as a former broadcaster himself, he has brought the spirit of the industry to Washington.
Nothing is ever passes as fast as and LPFM was one of those issues. It takes longer than a thing. Murphy's Law sort of kicks in. But he was tenacious in that. But he also was pretty fair because basically the argument was pretty much on Eddie's side in the first place.
Eddie worked very actively on the 96 Act. And he provided extraordinary leadership to the broadcasters. He was immensely helpful to us here on the Hill in terms of information. And there's one thing about Eddie Fritz that we can always count on, and that is he's a man of integrity, and he will tell you the truth.
He funded and helped to guide the development of the Advanced Television Test Center down in Alexandria, where we tested systems on new equipment that had never been developed before, and as a result of that, we were able to come up with a new digital television standard that the FCC ultimately adopted. I don't think if Eddie Fritz hadn't stepped forward and seen that problem and come up with a solution that we would be where we are today.
Eddie also had the vision when it came to digital television to drive us and to many times lead us into embracing a change from analog to digital, both in television and now in radio. I think his impact will be felt for years.
My signature of this new law will formally establish the federal government's role in the Amber Alert system.
Local broadcasters with local law enforcement came up with the idea of using the old emergency broadcast system to rapidly disseminate images and information to find kids. And the first person we went to was Eddie Fritz. But the whole concept, which Eddie understood instantly, is that broadcast media has power to mobilize people.
80 to 95% of each class has been hired by the industry as media sales reps. At Howard University, Eddie Fritz is one of our really most popular personalities. We have an enormous amount of affection and respect for Eddie. His commitment to diversity, his commitment to people, his commitment to the young people here at Howard University. We view him as one of our own.
The NAB convention was another vision of Eddie to make that the premier broadcast convention in the world. And that would certainly be from a financial standpoint. It would be from the size alone and from the importance within the industry. And on all fronts, Eddie accomplished that.
Eddie's been a good spokesman for the broadcast industry for a long time. He's been universally respected by members of Congress, the administration, and everyone here at the Commission. And he's been a good friend of broadcasters and been a good friend to me.
Believe me, when lawmakers needed to hear the broadcasting industry's perspective on something, Eddie Fritz could broadcast a signal at high voltage, and his Nielsen ratings were always through the roof.
His impact on broadcasting, I think, has been massive and monumental. I say this without any false modesty. I believe if you look at Ed's 20-plus year record as the head of the National Association of Broadcasters, he probably was the single most successful association president in Washington.
Despite our loss in the war of aggression by the North back in the last century, the Southern boys can rise up to a challenge and tenaciously win every now and then.
So his legacy will be, that's the kid from Mississippi that built one of the strongest lobbying voices and effective voices in Washington.
I think Eddie's legacy will be a broadcast industry that is more vibrant than when he assumed its leadership.
Ed, I think, planted his flag, and on that flag banner was freedom for broadcasters.
He wouldn't have amounted to anything. He'd probably been pumping gas in the Mississippi Delta if it were not for Martha Dale.
Unforgettable in every way, and forevermore, that's how you'll stay. That's why, darling, it's incredible that someone so unforgettable thinks that I'm unforgettable too.